I'm excited about the opportunities that we have for our waterfront because I think that Lorain has been paving the way for decades. When the city created the Port Authority, I think even then they knew the gem that we had here.
Welcome to episode 95 of the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Ed Skimman. Before we get started, I want to thank the LorainCounty.com champion sponsors for their continued support. Community Foundation of Lorain County, Lorain County Community College, Lorain County JVS, WOBL Radio, Lorain County Commissioners, and Emerge Inc. Today, we are talking with Tiffany McClelland, Executive Director of the Lorain Port and Finance Authority. Join us as Tiffany talks about the unique role and powers of the Port Authority in driving economic development, her wide-ranging responsibilities from managing public assets to facilitating business growth, and the impact of Lorain's harbor on the region's future. She also shares insights on current and future projects, the importance of collaboration, and her journey from intern to executive director. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, I grew up in Lorain. In high school, I often jogged from our house on 10th Street to the lake to watch the sunset. Lake Erie is an amazing asset for Lorain County. It enhances our quality of life, supports recreation and tourism, and creates opportunities that many communities simply do not have. In Lorain, the Port Authority is a key partner in leveraging that asset. Their work in redevelopment, business support, and waterfront planning helps the city grow, modernize, and continue building a strong future for residents and employers. It's also worth noting that Tiffany grew up in Lorain and chose to return to build her career at the Port Authority. Her decision to return and invest her talents back into Lorain is a real benefit to an organization that plays an important role in the community's future. Here is my conversation with Tiffany McClelland.
Tiffany McClelland with the Lorain Port and Finance Authority, and I'm the Executive Director.
Welcome, Tiffany. Thanks for joining us and sharing your insights. Can you give us an overview of the Lorain Port and Finance Authority?
So the Lorain Port and Finance Authority was founded in 1964 with the mission of driving economic development in the city of Lorain forward, focusing on waterborne commerce and access to our waterways. So everything we do is really focused on those three prongs, and we want to make sure that we're driving the economy of the city forward and really focused on our waterfront.
To clarify for listeners, how would you describe the difference between the Lorain Port and Finance Authority and the other local economic development organizations like the city's Community Development Department, the county's Port Authority, and other foreign nonprofit economic development organizations?
We are a very unique agency, and I'm going to say just first and foremost that when you think about economic development in a community, a Port Authority at its core was founded in the state of Ohio to be a driver of economic development. The Port Authority has special powers that are different than what cities can do, what counties can do, and really put us in a position to take a step and be an agency that the private community can come to when they're trying to facilitate development deals in a community. So that's the first prong of that. The second prong is the difference between our Port Authority, our city Port Authority, and then the county port. And in a lot of ways, we're both Port Authorities founded under Ohio Revised Code. So we're actually very similar at the core of what we can do as an agency. It's just we've taken different paths in what we are actually focused on. So here at our agency, like I mentioned, our core really is focusing on economic development, focusing on the waterfront, and everything we do behind that, we use the powers granted to Port Authorities to be able to do those things. We're founded in the city of Lorain, so my jurisdiction generally is the city of Lorain, whereas the county port is focused on Lorain County as a whole. Outside of the city of Lorain, they were actually founded a little bit later into the early 2000s era. We do both focus on economic development. We focus on financing mechanisms, bond financing. We can both do that. We're a little bit more intimately involved in different financing mechanisms to help build out capital stacks for development. So we get more intimately involved in PACE financing. And to add a layer of confusion, we actually do that throughout the whole county. There are quite a few things that we do overlap, and even in a bigger context, we work together in a lot of ways. But things that we don't do are the land bank. So if you ever think about calling the Port Authority to talk about that empty lot that is next door to your house, that is not us. That is the Lorain County Port Authority. That's just something that they've gotten into that we haven't.
Can you describe your role and responsibilities as executive director of the Port and Finance Authority, and what does your day-to-day look like?
I love my job so much because my day is different every day. And I think fundamentally, when you're running an agency, it's about problem solving and keeping everything moving forward. And I've had the luxury of starting here as an intern and working my way up to being the executive director. So in my time here, I've actually done just about every job there is to do. So I've touched every little facet, and it's just amazing to be able to now be in this position and just help facilitate all of those things moving forward. It's really important to stay focused on the economic development, and that's a big portion of what I still do is ensuring that we're staying engaged in our business community, ensuring that we're helping businesses to expand, providing those opportunities, building out capital stacks for expansions or new developments here in town and offering those financing programs. So that's like the bread and butter of what I love to do. But then on top of that, we own a lot of property here in the city of Lorain. So we have Black River Landing, and keeping this facility up and operating is of utmost importance to us. We're under construction on a brand new amphitheater right now. So a construction project, definitely keeping that moving forward is important. We are the owners of a marina here in town. Lakeside Landing, Riverside Park are overseen by us. We have a boat launch facility. So we have a lot of public access. We run shuttle boat operations out to the lighthouse. Those boats being maintained and operated are our responsibility. All of that, keeping all of that moving forward on top of ensuring that our waterborne partners are really being taken care of here in the harbor. We have a base in the industry and heavy industry that relies on having a navigational channel here in our harbor. And we are a facilitator to ensure that everything that they're trying to do can continue to happen here to really support the other businesses in the industry that they feed into throughout Lorain County and the greater area.
Before we get into specific projects at a big picture level, what's the long-term impact that the Port Authority is working to achieve for the city and its residents?
Ultimately, for me, I look at the economic impact of what we can do as a port authority. And as an agency, it's always been very important to just look at our harbor and how that's impacting an area. So recently, an economic impact study was done just in the harbor, what the Lorain port and not us as an agency, but the Lorain Harbor, when you think about the Lorain Harbor, the maritime side of things, has a $300 million annual economic impact to the community. So that's huge. And being a little piece of that, now we're a small fish in the grand scheme of the Great Lakes economy, but we've always played a part. That's why we were created in the 60s. We had great industry here in the community, and we want to continue to play a part and expand upon that as the desires and interests of the city shift and really having that clean divide of heavy industry versus mixed use development. We're playing a role in all of that to continue to grow that economic impact that we do have and build out who we can be in the greater economy. I think a really fun fact for everyone is that the Great Lakes region as a whole is the third largest economy in the world. So when you really think about how we're playing a little piece of that, and I say a little piece because when you look at Cleveland, they have a $7 billion economic impact in their harbor. So that's pretty significant compared to our 300 million, but my gosh, 300 million economic impact is still a big deal.
So when you say a little piece, does that mean there's room to grow?
Absolutely, there's room to grow. And I think that's what I'm most excited about. We personally have some facilities that we own that we're looking at future development on. You may have seen over the past handful of years that we've really been focused on Black River Landing. And sure, we're investing into this amphitheater, but we have a whole portion of property that's available for development to really build out everything that's happening here and enhance what we have going on in the investments in our downtown. We have other properties that we're looking at for that industrial use that we want to really move forward and getting it to a point where we can have that manufacturer come into town, the job base that you need in a community. So we're moving some of those properties forward. I think it's so important to look at the dynamics of a harbor for us and realize that we had heavy industry throughout the entire 3-mile stretch of a navigational channel. And that's not really the desire anymore. If you look at what the city's doing with the pellet terminal site, they really want to focus on a mixed use development there. And that's really important for the community and how that'll enhance everything. But everything upriver is still available for industrial development. So there's a great opportunity for the future to really have that base again and not necessarily steel anymore, but something else that'll really add to the economic base.
You mentioned the amphitheater, and we saw the construction as we drove in. Can you talk about the project there?
Yes, we're very excited that we broke ground on September 15th. We started into the construction. Last week, we watched the old canvas top come down for the very last time. If you haven't seen it, it's on our Facebook. It's really pretty spectacular watching it come down. So we are in full-fledged construction mode here. Really quickly, we're going to keep seeing a lot of earth moving happening. Deep foundations are already in for the new construction of the stage. Concrete is going to start getting poured very quickly here. Everything is taking off. So a great vantage point from the bridge. We also have our camera here on site that's pointed to it so people can watch in those different fashions. But we're moving quickly here. The timeline for construction was always very aggressive. We never wanted to touch that summertime season because it's important to the community to have the events that we have down here. When we think about it, I like to brag. Someone's going to tell me that I'm wrong on this one day, but I'm going to hold strong on it that we are the #1 tourist destination in Lorain County. Right now, we bring in the most visitors, and I think the fairgrounds are the ones that are going to maybe push back on me. So maybe we're close, but I'm still holding strong on that one. So #1 tourist destination, we couldn't lose a summer season. So we dictated when we went down the path of construction that it had to happen in our off season. Which September construction through May construction means the middle of winter.
On the lake.
On the lake, exactly. And even on a beautiful winter day, the wind is whipping off the lake. And in a lot of ways, that can affect the construction schedule. So we are going to hope for the best. So far, so good. Everything's going well. We're still early on in everything construction, but the intention of that being that we'll be opened up Memorial Day weekend of 2026 with the brand new amphitheater here.
Can you talk about why tourism and events like Rocking on the River benefit the city's economy and the community spirit?
Everything we do as a port authority, I think, comes down to trying to enhance economic development. So we're looking at things of if we do this, how does that continue to drive the economic value of the community forward? And Rockin' on the River, Black River Landing, even before Rockin' on the River, Black River Landing was created as a way to drive individuals to come down to a community, to bring them back to a downtown area and really enhance economic development because you can go a lot of different paths to driving economic development. And though manufacturing is one of them, tech is an industry that you can go, tourism is a great way to drive economic development as well. So in a community like ours, being able to bring thousands of people down to an area who ultimately are spending dollars in a local economy, but then even further than that, potentially coming back and spending dollars in your downtown and really utilizing those other small businesses that are here, that's invaluable to really recreating a community. And I think in a small way, we have Rockin' on the River here. And when we run Rockin' on the River, there are hotel room nights. And in order to have certain acts come into your area, you have to have them staying in a hotel. Now that we have the Ariel on Broadway Hotel, they're a great partner to us. We reserve hotel room nights for individuals to stay there. Ultimately, that cycles back into bed tax, coming back into the Visitors Bureau for Lorain County. So every little way you're seeing what we're doing, trying to help drive dollars coming back and reinvestment into this community.
What other economic development or financing initiatives is the Port Authority currently working on or planning in the near future that you're allowed to talk about?
I'm glad you caveated that with that you're allowed to talk about. I think so many times people forget that confidentiality is so important in economic development. And that's one of the things I love about this position is though we are a quasi-government agency, we're able to keep things confidential until really the very last second, which gives private developers the confidence in having those discussions in our community, which is just so imperative for development deals going through because no one wants their trade secrets out there. So that's a very important part of everything we do. But we are working on quite a few different things. I would say our properties are a big focus for us. And this is something that I think we've talked about publicly very often, but we own some assets here on our river, the wharf property being one of them, that we want to move forward into development. And this past year, we submitted in for 2 grants to put infrastructure into these properties. So in order to get a property to be site ready, ultimately you need large scale investment into infrastructure. Otherwise, a developer looks at time and money, which time is money, and really ends up walking away from those developments because it's not conducive for them to get to the market as quick as they want to. So we have an asset that has been sitting, we've owned for over 20 years, and quite frankly, it needs infrastructure in it so it can move forward into a productive use. So we recently got a port infrastructure development grant submitted in for investment into that property, as well as a maritime assistance program grant submitted in as well for that property to hopefully move the infrastructure piece forward, cut out some of that time for the permitting and development of that, and really get it to a place where we can actually find a good partner to invest in with us.
Which location is this?
The wharf property. So, what people I think would probably best know as the boat launch, the 14th Street boat launch. It used to be operated by Grumpy's. So, that property, we actually own the woods on both sides of
Okay.
that. So, it's an asset in the community that has been sitting vacant and underutilized for 20 years. So, I'm really excited about that one. And then there's a lot of interest in Lorain right now. I think as the economy continues to shift, as interest rates level out a little bit, I think you're going to start seeing more investment in the area. So that's really exciting to me as well. As far as a program, though, I talk about the negative side of the interest rates. Because interest rates went up so much, one of our programs that we've had in place since 2019, which is PACE financing, has quickly become one of the most sought after programs that we operate. And PACE financing is property assessed clean energy. It focuses on energy efficiency financing for businesses. Ultimately, generally, we're looking at a project that's 100,000 or more for an investment into a facility. But when you think about a lot of the redevelopment of Lorain, or really any urban city that has old buildings in it, when you go down the path of redeveloping, you need to put a new roof on, you need a new HVAC system, new windows, all of those things. It adds up pretty quickly to an expensive redevelopment project, and PACE financing is a great option. It's lower interest rate, fixed rate, long term. It's, in a sense, off the book financing because it goes on your property tax assessment. So it's a really unique financing mechanism to be able to give capital to someone to be able to invest into a building. So it's something that I think everyone that is trying to redevelop an asset right now should be looking at as a way to keep their financing costs low.
We know economic development requires a collaborative effort from local, county, and state governments to nonprofit and for-profit economic development organizations. What's your approach to collaboration, and how does working with partners help you achieve your vision?
We cannot do anything in economic development without our partners. It is imperative that the port is working with the city, is working with the county. Just about every project that happens, everybody has a role to play in that. And sometimes that's the port acting as the arm for confidentiality and adding in the financing component of that. The city is very often approached in ways of ensuring that the building permit process is smooth and efficient. There's a role for everyone in this, and there's no good deal that could happen in Lorain County that could get done without everyone being at the table together. So we work with the city daily. I've been on 2 phone calls with them already today for development deals. So it's important.
How is the Lorain Port and Financing Authority funded?
In a couple different ways. So the majority of our funding, first of all, comes from the levy. So our levy goes to the city of Lorain voters every 5 years, and we ask for their support in passing our 1 mil operating levy, which fundamentally keeps our doors open and allows us to do everything that we do. So that's the majority of our funding. Outside of that, we try to diversify our revenue base by our financing deals. So every time that there's a project that happens that we're involved in the community, if we're offering some type of incentive or financing to that private developer, there's fees that come off of that add to that bottom line of the levy funding. As well, we have properties in the community that we lease to individuals, and we do have small lease fees. So those 3 are the main components of everything we do. As we built out and purchased the Rocket on the River asset here at Black River Landing, we also are taking those proceeds, and those directly end up going to the bond issuance for the redevelopment of this project. So a little bit of components of event management that we have, our levy proceeds, property management, and financing fees.
From your perspective, what's the biggest challenges in Lorain right now, and what are the biggest opportunities?
The biggest challenge, I'll say, is site readiness. Fundamentally, when you think about the main asks of a developer and what they're looking for when they want to put or relocate or expand a business or develop a business, they want things that are just ready to go. The demands are high for those sites, whether it's with a building or without a building. And we have quite a lot of property here in our community, but none that is site ready in a way that has enticed developers to actually put facilities there. So we have a long way to go. Some of those are barriers that I don't know that we necessarily have answers to. When you think about a developer demanding that a manufacturing facility be 1 mile off of a main highway, I can't change where the highway is. So those type of things are barriers that we have to look at in a different way because we can't change that. On the other side, there are barriers like the sewer lines being expanded to a certain capacity or a spec building being in place so that it doesn't take them as much time to get to market. Those are things that potentially could be changed, but those are large scale investments for an unknown. It's a complicated scenario for a community to be in, especially a community where we're not working with greenfields anymore. We are working with brownfields. Everything here in our community is just about a brownfield. So when you talk about developing, really you're talking about redevelopment, which fundamentally starts with a bigger cost than a greenfield. So we have a lot of work to do to continue to move this community forward. I'm excited about the opportunities that we have for our waterfront because I think that Lorain has been paving the way for decades on the waterfront being a priority. I think when you think about all the way back to the 60s when the city created the Port Authority, they were created with the mission to focus on the waterfront. And I think even then they knew the gem that we had here. So the opportunity to really take some of these assets and build them out, it's very exciting. One of the very first things that when I came and I was working here, I had said a very naive sense, I don't understand why I can't just walk along the river all the way from here, these offices, all the way out along the finger piers. And here we are 10 years later, and my dream is coming true. You can see the investment going in out there. And those types of little things I think about connecting all of our waterfront assets is only going to drive development on these sites. So we have a great thing happening with the amphitheater here at Black River Landing, but what other investment is going to pop up to now be directly connected to it?
How do you measure success at the Lorain Port Authority? What metrics and outcomes are important to you, your team, and your board?
So I think fundamentally, number one, when I talk about how we're funded and it being by the community and through our levy, it is so important to us that the community supports us, that they understand what we're doing, how we're spending our time, and that they're seeing the results and feeling as though we're an asset to the community because they are the ones supporting us and being here. So that first and foremost is the most important thing to us. When you think about everything we're doing here at Black River Landing, it's very important that we stay financially stable. And I would say success here at Black River Landing as we build out an amphitheater, as we continue to get to a point where we're repaying the bond issuance for the infrastructure that we're putting in here. It's really important that success is looked at, that we're staying financially stable, that we're paying back the debt that we have on that. With us developing out Black River Landing, we've had a lot of dollars put into this in the sense of Port Authority dollars. We've financed out a portion of this with bond financing. The city's put in dollars, the county's put in dollars. But even then, what started off at a $3 million redevelopment here at Black River Landing quickly grew to a $12 million redevelopment for the first phase of building out that stage and green room. That was not what we were anticipating or hoping for, but when we started this, which was the before COVID times, construction was just a different realm. And when COVID hit and we were trying to bring all of these things together, we realized very quickly, watched prices escalate dramatically. And I think ultimately that put us in a position of deciding, do we keep marching forward on this path that we have, even with the price tag, or do we shift directions completely? And our board was adamant that we're going to stay the course. So we've endeavored down a path of a project that just is much larger than we ever anticipated. But it's the right thing for the community. And I think because of that, we're in a place where we're fundraising for some dollars, which is something we've never done in the history of this agency. So we have the project that we're doing right now, which is building out the amphitheater. That's what we're currently under construction for. But the green room is about $3 million of funding that we have not raised. So we are currently asking for people to partake in that so that we can hit that $3 million goal and build out the green room facility. So when you come back in May of 2026 to see the amphitheater open, you will see a brand new stage, a brand new bowl structure. Really, the site will shift, but it is not going to include the green room in it because we don't have the funds for that yet. We have a great group of people that are behind us on our fundraising committee, pushing and driving this. But in order to do everything that we envisioned, it's just going to take a little bit more of everybody supporting us. So we have sponsorship opportunities, we have naming rights opportunities, and we'd love to be able to have more people come and be a part of this project with us. Then, because we have our hands in so many different things, ultimately, us being a part of the economic growth of the community is really important. So when we look at the different businesses that are locating in the area and the people that are able to make an investment here because we were able to help build out their capital stack in that small little way, I think that shows the success of what our agency is. It's so exciting to be able to see the waterfront development. It's so exciting to be able to have a project that maybe never would have happened if not for us. And a huge success, I would say, is looking at the motorsports park. That development is such a unique development that very likely wouldn't have happened if all the right things didn't line up, if all the right people didn't come to the table. And we got to play a small piece in that to make sure that came to fruition. And that is success.
Let's switch over and talk about you. What's your background and what led you to the Port Authority initially as an intern?
Yeah, so I started here as an intern. I was actually working in DC, and Rick Novak, who was 2 directors ago, Rick Novak called me and he had said, "Hey, you applied for this internship. I'm calling to interview you." And I'm standing in a stairwell, Capitol Hill, taking an interview with him. We go back and forth. And he goes, "I'd love to offer you the job, but we're on the ballot in May. And if we don't pass the levy, then I won't be able to hire you. But if we pass the levy, I'll be able to hire you." I'm thinking, I don't know anything about a levy issuance. I have no idea if it's going to pass or not. Who knows if I'm going to get offered this internship or not? So he calls me back the day after the election and he goes, "Hey, we passed. Come to find out, we've been passing levies since the 80s. So we've had pretty good odds of passing it, but I didn't know at the time." So he calls me back and says, "Hey, we passed this. I'd like to offer you the internship." And I said, "Okay, I'm coming home for the summer anyway. That sounds great." I walked in the door, didn't know a thing about the Port Authority. When I interviewed with Rick Novak, I didn't know that Lorain had a Port Authority. I really had no idea what I was walking into. And I walked into this office and he said, "So what is it that you want to do with your life?" And I'm going back to college to finish my senior year and I'm studying public policy and I just worked on Capitol Hill and I don't want to do that. So I'm not sure, but I want to work at the intersection of business and government because I go to business school and what I've realized is they talk 2 different languages and they don't know how to communicate with one another. And I don't know what that job looks like, but I want to do that. And Rick goes, "Boy, do I have a job for you." And I think the rest is history because he hired me in as an intern. I worked that summer and then he said, "You keep working for me while you're at college." And I was like, "Absolutely. This would be great. I'd love to." And I had an offer after graduation to come back. I had no intention of coming back to this area. And Rick, he reeled me in. got me involved in redevelopment projects and brownfield redevelopment. And that was really the first step into me realizing, like, this is really cool. But what I quickly realized was economic development can't get done if you fundamentally don't understand finance. And I think every project that doesn't happen, it's not because it's not a great idea, it's because the numbers don't work. For me, I quickly got ingrained in the finance realm of things. So I have a certification in development finance, and I love that part of the deal. I love the part of the getting the capital stack and building out these projects that typically wouldn't work if you didn't have all the right pieces together to make them work. My time here started as an intern. I got hired in as a economic development specialist and then really just moved my way up. And over the course of the last decade here, I now got moved into the executive director position last year.
In the time you've been here, what are you most proud of accomplishing?
I have to say some of the development deals that I've been a part of. The Motorsports Park project is probably one of those deals that you saw everybody else talk about it in other communities, and you never would have thought that you could actually get it done here. And the fact that they're under construction. I guess they're not 100% open yet, but we're close. We're close. That is just outstanding with a quick follow up being the Arrow Broadway Hotel because there are not many people that can hang their hat on being part of a redevelopment project that took 12 different financing mechanisms to be able to bring it together in a way that you could actually get that project done. Projects that just go to the bank and get $10 million and build out their facility are not very exciting to me anymore because of these more complicated projects that I've been a part of. So I'm really excited about those, I think.
Looking forward, what would you still like to accomplish?
I have two things in my sights that I'm focused on, and I think the community will continue to hear more and more about these. The first being the wharf project that I've talked about. We have that property, we've been sitting on the property, and it's got to move forward into a productive economic use for the community. We're really, as an agency, going to stay focused on moving that forward. Secondary to that would be continuing to invest in Black River Landing. We have our first phase of the amphitheater going in. We're going to continue to move forward on our fundraising to build out the green room facility, which is really important to everything that we can be here as a music venue and an amphitheater event venue. So I'm really excited about that. But then tied into that is the property that we have in conjunction with Black River Landing that could potentially be that mixed use development. So I'm really excited about those two. And then on top of that, really looking at the east side of Lorain on the different development potentials that we have over there. And once again, focusing really hard on port assets, port property. And we have a marina in town that needs some love and needs some focus and some redevelopment. And I'm excited to be taking the next leap of redeveloping that into the next great asset for the Lorain community.
How would you describe your leadership style and who and what has influenced your leadership approach the most?
I've been blessed with having two outstanding bosses here. Rick Novak was just a prize for me to have as a first boss here. And then Tom Brown came in after him, and Tom, same thing, two very different leadership styles. Both of them, I think, gave me a base of an understanding of things that I could do to be a good leader, and even in ways, things that I wanted to do differently to be a better leader in my mind. So I've had an opportunity to be surrounded by some great people that have been inspiration to me. I think in general, I always said that Tom was the fun boss, and he is, but I would say that if you looked at Tom and me, we're like exact opposites. I'm not the fun boss. I'm pretty strict. I think I have some nicknames here in the office, but either way, I think ultimately I want people to come along with me and work as hard as I'm working because they see that I'm working hard in a community, and I love this community. I love everything that this agency can do for this community. I want to keep driving things forward, and I think that my passion shows through. And ultimately, the whole office, and we're a small office, small but mighty, that they see that too and they feel it too and they love this community. So we all go together because of that.
Outside of work, what are your interests and hobbies, and how do they help recharge you?
I work a lot, but I'm very adamant, and this is a hard lesson that I had to learn. You have to turn off, you have to walk out of this place. And I'm pretty adamant with staff on work hard with us here. And after the office is closed, go enjoy your time and your family and everything else. A couple of things. I'm a big reader, so you'll catch me with a book very often. And outside of that, I'm an active lifestyle person. It's very hard if you'll catch me sitting unless I'm reading a book. And even sometimes I'm on the audiobook thing, but very active. So I'm in the gym very often. I run, not quickly, but I have gotten a couple of Main Street medals from the races. So I feel like that counts. And then I'm a soccer player. Not a good soccer player either. I just enjoy it, but I go and play rec soccer on the side. So keep myself busy.
Finally, where can people go to get more information on the Lorain Port and Financing Authority and connect with you?
Please follow us on Facebook. We do all of our regular updates on Facebook, Lorain Port and Finance Authority. We're also on LinkedIn, Lorain Port on LinkedIn. And then we have our website as well, lorainport.com. for all information on everything we are. And then we also have rockin'ontheriver.com, which is everything event-wise here that happens at Black River Landing. So a couple different places to find that information, but by all means, lorainport.com, and you'll connect into all of those things.
Thank you, Tiffany, for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast. Each episode, we share conversations with the people shaping life in Lorain County. From business and government to education, nonprofits, healthcare, and entertainment. Be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. You can also visit LorainCounty.com to discover local events, volunteer opportunities, and more community resources. If you know someone who's making a difference in Lorain County, send us a note at podcast@LorainCounty.com. We would love to share their story and insights. Special thanks to our producer, Leah Gerke, and to you for listening. This has been the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast, conversations with the people shaping Lorain County.